Imagine trying to sell a product, right? And the absolute defining characteristic of this product is that it is just biologically, texturally slimy.
Yeah, that is a really tough sell.
Right. I mean, think about trying to rebrand the texture of raw okra. Or, I don't know, maybe oysters for someone who has literally never eaten them. But honestly, it's even worse than that.
Oh, way worse. Yeah, you're fighting human biology at that point.
Exactly. Now imagine taking that exact same slimy product and trying to sell it as a premium, high-margin, highly coveted daily wellness anchor. And you're pitching it to a stressed-out, hyper-optimized executive.
It's just a monumental hurdle because, you're taking an ingredient that has thousands of years of profound wellness history in Mesoamerica, and you're trying to translate it for a modern urban demographic.
Who probably has no idea what it is.
Right. They're either completely unfamiliar with it, or they strictly associate it with that thick gelatinous texture.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We're looking at a fascinating capstone project submitted today, actually June 27th, 2026.
Fresh off the press.
Yeah, exactly. It's by a student named Jairo Cruz for a creative strategy and branding course. And we are looking at a proposed campaign for a brand called Hacienda El Maguey.
Which is a family-owned Florida agricultural brand, right?
Yep. Established back in 1976 in Pioneer Plantation. And the product that they are trying to sell is harina de Nopal, which is cactus flour, made from the Opuntia ficus indica cactus.
And honestly, it's a brilliant subject for a marketing case study. It operates on so many different levels.
It really does.
Because we aren't just looking at like a logo redesign here. This is a complete masterclass in behavioral psychology, sensory rebranding, and honestly, navigating a very complex regulatory environment.
Okay, let's unpack this, because when you look at the physical product first, there is just a massive biological barrier standing in the way of any marketing.
The slime.
The slime. You simply cannot market a superfood if people are instinctively repulsed by the texture. We're talking about mucilage, right?
Right. Which is, ironically, the very thing that makes the plant so resilient.
Yeah, it's what allows the cactus to survive in the desert by retaining water. But it's the exact same thing that creates that thick, stringy slime when you cook it. So my question is simply putting 0% slime on a package actually enough to override a deep evolutionary texture aversion?
Well, looking at how they tackle the texture aversion, what's fascinating here is how the strategy utilizes a concept called radical candor.
Radical candor.
Yeah. Usually in food marketing, if you have a sensory flaw, you try to mask it. You bury it in a proprietary blend, or you distract the consumer with strong fruit flavors.
Like hiding spinach in a berry smoothie.
Exactly. But this campaign does the exact opposite. It explicitly addresses the fear head-on. The disruptive hook of the entire campaign is literally a 100% cactus, 0% slime.
It's so bold.
It is. They're completely vaporizing the stigma by just acknowledging it, and that builds immediate trust.
Yeah.
But of course, they have to prove it, which they do by changing the form factor of the product itself.
Right. They completely alter the delivery mechanism. They take this perishable gelatinous ethnic ingredient and process it into a 500-gram retail pouch of finely milled flour.
And the document specifies it's a 50 to 200 mesh culinary grade powder, which is a really crucial detail.
Wait, I mean, we should probably explain what that actually means, because that specific milling grade seems to be the linchpin of the whole physical product.
Definitely. So when you get down to 200 mesh, you're looking at a powder that is actually finer than standard baking flour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's closer to the consistency of like matcha powder or powdered sugar.
Okay, so it's super fine.
Extremely fine. And that means when it hits water or when you put it in a smoothie, it suspends and blends seamlessly. It doesn't clump up. It doesn't sink to the bottom like sand. And most importantly, it does not revert to slime.
That is wild. It completely removes the sensory friction.
Exactly.
Plus, the processing method is key here, too. The document outlines this low-temp solar drying process.
Which is so important for the nutritional profile.
Right, because they aren't just throwing it in a giant industrial oven and baking it until it's just dead dust. The low heat preserves all those delicate active enzymes. And it maintains this incredibly vibrant macro green color.
Which serves as a huge visual cue for the consumer.
Yeah, it signals life and vitality, while still, packing in 10 grams of natural fiber per serving.
So by confronting the objection immediately with that radical transparency, they're essentially saying to you, the consumer, we know exactly what you're afraid of, we understand why you're afraid of it, and we engineered a solution.
It completely shifts the paradigm.
It really does. The product shifts from a highly perishable vegetable to a shelf-stable, high-margin functional ingredient. The biological hurdle is just neutralized.
So the product is beautiful, it's green, it's smooth, and it sits in your pantry for months. But, I mean, neutralizing a flaw doesn't automatically create a customer.
No, it doesn't.
Who exactly is going to spend premium money on a pouch of cactus powder?
Well, this is where the psychological profiling in Gyro Cruise's strategy truly shines. Because the campaign doesn't just take a shotgun approach and hope for the best.
They got really specific. Right.
Hyper-specific. They targeted a geographic and psychographic area they call the South Florida Wellness Corridor.
Right. So we're talking about Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, zooming in on very specific high-income neighborhoods. Places like Brickell, Coral Gables, Wynwood, Doral.
Exactly. And they slice this audience into two distinct customer segments. The first one is what they call the modern high-performance professional.
Okay, paint a picture of this person.
So this is someone 28 to 45 years old, high stress and highly data-driven. Think of the executive who wakes up at 5 a.m. to sit in a cold plunge.
Oh, I know exactly who you mean.
Right. They are biohackers facing imminent burnout.
Yeah, for this demographic, wellness isn't like a luxury spa day. It is a required biohack just to keep functioning in a high-velocity urban environment.
Totally. They are obsessed with glucose regulation and metabolic harmony. They don't just want a snack, They want fuel that simplifies their routine while delivering measurable internal control over their biology.
Which makes sense. I mean, if you look at the wellness industry right now, for people like that, it is utterly exhausting.
Oh, it's overwhelming.
You've got a smart ring tracking your sleep stages, a continuous monitor patched to your arm tracking your blood sugar spikes, a watch buzzing at you to stand up every hour.
Don't forget the kitchen counter cluttered with 15 different synthetic supplements.
Exactly. It's so clinical. It's white coat wellness. And that leads directly to the second segment they identified, which is the heritage-conscious health seeker.
Now, that second group is really fascinating because they are drawn to the aesthetic and the goals of modern wellness culture. But they are deeply skeptical of those big corp synthetic solutions.
They want the real deal.
Right. They don't want a pill formulated in a lab. They have a built-in cultural awareness of Nopal, and they were seeking ancestral wellness.
They want that Est 1976 provenance we talked about.
Yes. The agricultural roots, a transparent plant-to-powder story. They are seeking long-term vitality rather than just a quick, caffeinated biohack.
So the genius of the strategy to me is how it bridges these two seemingly completely different groups with one core consumer insight equation.
The optimization fatigue equation.
Yes. The campaign takes optimization fatigue, that total exhaustion from the superficial clinical tracking apps and the 15 pill bottles, and it adds it to the sensory aversion of the slime.
And that's the result.
The result is that these high-performance individuals are craving an invisible internal anchor.
That phrase is so good. And that optimization fatigue is a real cultural symptom. If we connect this to the bigger picture, modern societal burnout creates a massive market opportunity for products that offer emotional grounding rather than just physical fuel.
It's about feeling centered.
Exactly. These consumers are not seeking another complex supplement to add to a stressful 10-step morning checklist. They are seeking a simple, time-tested pause button to restore metabolic harmony. It functions as a psychological anchor as much as a biological one.
Which perfectly sets up the single-minded proposition for the campaign, which is the daily desert ritual that anchors your metabolic harmony.
I love that line.
Just hearing that phrase feels like a deep breath. It's explicitly not about hustling harder or grinding through the pain. It's about anchoring yourself before the chaos of the day even begins.
And that phrasing moves the product away from being a mere commodity. It pushes it into what marketers call the effective model of behavioral psychology.
Okay, let's break that down for everyone. The effective model.
Right. So instead of just relying on the cognitive model, which is your rational, fact-based marketing, like buy this for 10 grams of fiber.
Right, the logical stuff.
Exactly. The effective model targets emotional habituation. It's all about how the product makes you feel. It transforms a bag of utility flour into an identity-based morning ritual.
So when a consumer uses it, they are signaling to themselves that they are grounded and in control.
Precisely.
Okay, so we have this stressed out, highly discerning demographic. We have a product that fixes a major sensory flaw, and we have a deep psychological understanding of what the consumer actually wants to feel. But how do you visually and textually communicate this pause button to a crowd that is relentlessly bombarded with flashy wellness ads all day long?
Well, the visual execution of the brand is defined as minimalist luxury wellness. Every single design choice is calculated to reinforce that heritage trust signal we talked about, while clearly communicating premium quality.
The color palette is incredibly deliberate, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
The primary color is organic Nopal green, and it isn't like a neon artificial green, it's the actual vibrant macro green of the powder, acting as the primary quality cue.
Then you have terracotta and sand tones acting as the heritage canvas, rooting the visual identity in the earth.
And finally, matte earth brown to signal sustainability and groundedness.
And you see this tension between the ancient and the modern in the typography system as well.
How so?
They use elegant serif fonts to signal their premium tradition and those 1976 roots. Because serifs intuitively feel older, more established, like a classic novel. But then they mix it with very clean sans serif fonts for modern readability and delivering those crucial functional facts.
And the imagery backs that up perfectly. It is completely devoid of gym bros or clinical laboratories.
It's all very warm, sunlit kitchen environments.
Yeah, you have these beautiful macro photography shots of the green powder catching the morning light, alongside split screens providing visual sensory proof of the smooth texture. The tone and voice are grounded, authentic, premium, and empathetic. It strictly avoids any aggressive hustle culture rhetoric.
Right. And if you look at their brand positioning grid, they place Hacienda El Maguey firmly in the quadrant of time-tested heritage combined with grounded and natural.
Which is a really smart spot to be in.
It is, because this strategically places a massive moat between them and their competitors, who are either pushing laboratory-clean synthetics or who are just riding a fleeting, superficial TikTok trend.
Hold on, though. Because you're talking about minimalist luxury, terracotta tones, targeting brickle executives. Aren't they just gentrifying a cheap, traditional staple?
That's a fair question.
I mean, Nopal is something families have bought fresh for pennies on the dollar for generations. Doesn't this whole minimalist luxury wellness angle completely run the risk of alienating the very culture it's borrowing from?
It is a critical risk to consider, and it's a dangerous tightrope walk for any heritage product trying to scale into a premium market segment. You see this happen with ingredients all the time, where the cultural origin is just erased to make it palatable for a wealthy demographic.
Right, they just strip the history away?
Exactly. However, the strategy counters that risk by inextricably anchoring the brand identity to its true provenance. The East. 1976 Pioneer Plantation messaging isn't just a retro marketing sticker for them. It's the structural foundation of their authenticity.
So they aren't pretending they discovered it in a lab last week.
Exactly. By prioritizing the agricultural roots and the reality of being a family-owned Florida farm over superficial modern trends, they signal deep respect for the plant's history. They aren't inventing a new superfood. They're simply changing the delivery mechanism of an ancient one to fit the time constraints of modern lifestyles. The respect for the source remains intact.
That distinction makes a lot of sense. It's reverence for the source, just modernized for convenience. But, I mean, a beautiful aesthetic and a culturally respectful story are just theory.
True.
The reality is the health food market in South Florida is viciously competitive. How does Hacienda El Maguey actually get this green powder out of a warehouse and into the morning smoothies of Miami's elite professionals?
This brings us to the Integrated Marketing Communications Flywheel, or the IMC flywheel. It is a meticulously designed three-step process designed to move a consumer from complete unawareness to daily habituation, and it builds its own momentum along the way.
Okay, so step one is the hook, which is entirely about driving digital curiosity.
Right.
The campaign uses Instagram and TikTok Reels featuring split-screen demonstrations. This is pure, undeniable visual proof of the no slime claim.
It's so effective.
Picture this. On the left side of the screen, you see a knife slicing through fresh nopal, pulling away, and there's that long gelatinous string of slime. It's visceral.
You can almost feel it.
Yeah. But on the right side of the screen, you see a spoon dropping this perfectly smooth, fine green powder into water, and it instantly dissolves.
It addresses the core objection in under 3 seconds. It's a pattern interrupt.
But digital awareness is rarely enough to close a sale on a novel food ingredient, right?
Yeah.
People need to taste it to trust it, especially if they have that lingering fear of the slime.
Exactly. Which brings us to the crucial step 2, the trial.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because they bypass the grocery store entirely and focus heavily on B2B synergy at local, high-end South Florida juice bars.
That's such a smart move.
They create point-of-sale signage and co-branding, offering the Harina de Nopal as a simple $1.50 add-on boost to any existing smoothie or bowl.
It's basically a Trojan horse into the consumer's diet.
Yes. They let the local trusted barista take on the risk of proving the texture and the taste before they ever ask the consumer to commit to buying a full 500-gram bag for their own pantry.
The psychology of the juice bar trial is brilliant because it perfectly feeds the digital habit while lowering the barrier to entry to almost zero. Think about it. If you are a target consumer in Wynwood, you are already standing at the counter buying a $12 green smoothie.
Right.
When the barista asks if you want to add a $1.50 shot of ancient metabolic balance for glucose control, it is an incredibly easy decision.
It's a no-brainer.
And they also support this grassroots approach with extensive physical sampling at local farmers markets.
And once you've spent that $1.50, tried it, and realized it genuinely isn't slimy, the flywheel spins into step 3, the habit. This is the digital conversion phase.
Taking it from a one-off purchase to a routine.
Exactly. They drive customers to their direct-to-consumer channels, primarily Shopify and Amazon, to set up automated subscriptions. They take that one-time Café trial and turn it into a 30-day Nopal ritual at home.
And they use automated email nurtures and put scannable QR codes right on the physical packaging that link to morning routine recipes.
Because this is a highly data-driven campaign, they have strict evaluation metrics to ensure the flywheel is actually spinning.
Yeah, let's talk about those metrics.
They are aiming for a 20% or higher sample-to-email conversion rate at those physical farmers markets. They want a 3 to 5% recurring subscription sign-up rate from total purchasers.
Which is very solid.
And on those morning anchor digital reels, they are targeting a 40% or higher view-through rate, which indicates that the split-screen visual proof is actually holding attention.
It's a completely closed loop. Physical trial feeds digital conversion, conversion feeds daily habit, and habit feeds brand advocacy.
It is incredibly thorough. But as this campaign looks poised to take over the South Florida wellness scene, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. There is one final critical hurdle they have to clear.
The legal one.
Yes. How do you legally sell a powerful, ancient remedy in the modern American regulatory environment?
The capstone refers to this as the defensibility gap. It is the core tension of the modern dietary supplement industry. You are trying to bridge the profound, well-documented clinical efficacy of a Mesoamerican staple with the incredibly strict anti-deception laws enforced by the FTC and the FDA.
Because you have this centuries-old remedy hitting the modern regulatory wall. So what does this all mean for the actual packaging claims? How does a brand walk the tightrope of honoring indigenous wisdom and biological truth without getting completely shut down by government regulators for making false medical claims?
The FDA draws a very hard line, and this raises an important question about the legal landscape of the wellness industry regarding who actually gets to define what is medicine and what is simply wellness.
Right, because the definitions are so strict.
Under current U.S. law, if you claim your product cures, treats, or prevents a disease, you are classifying it as a drug. Bringing a drug to market requires billions of dollars in double-blind clinical trials.
So even if traditional communities have used Nopal for metabolic health and to manage blood sugar for centuries, you absolutely cannot just slap a label on a cactus pouch that says cures diabetes or lowers blood sugar.
Precisely. To do so would immediately trigger regulatory action. So the strategy here relies on strict, rigorous compliance with what the FDA calls structure function claims.
Structure function.
Yeah. Instead of claiming disease treatment, dietary supplements must focus on how the product supports the normal, healthy structure or function of the human body.
It's kind of a game of semantics, but it's a legally vital one.
It is. So legally, because of the 10 grams of natural fiber, they can say supports digestive flow, they can say aids metabolic harmony, or supports healthy glucose metabolism.
Because those phrases describe a physiological function, not the mitigation of a disease. It's nuanced phrasing, but it keeps them totally compliant while still communicating the benefit to the biohacker who knows exactly what glucose metabolism means for their energy levels.
They know exactly what they're buying.
And this ties directly back into their ethical storytelling. The campaign handles the anecdotal research on Nopal very carefully. They frame their entire messaging around a concept of empowerment over exploitation.
They utilize clear disclaimers, and most importantly, they position the Nopal flour strictly as a daily wellness anchor, a tool for lifestyle balance. They never position it as a medical cure or a silver bullet.
It's just a really well-thought-out project. The student, Jero Cruz, identified the exact legal boundaries and designed a highly scalable, legally defensible business model that perfectly maintains the emotional and cultural core of the product.
It's impressive work.
Looking back at the full scope of this strategy, it is amazing to see the journey. I mean, we started with a humble, deeply misunderstood cactus known primarily for its sensory flaws,
The slate.
the slime. And through radical transparency regarding that slime, brilliant psychological profiling of the optimization-fatigued consumer, a minimalist heritage aesthetic, and a clever Trojan horse juice bar strategy, well, it gets completely elevated into a scalable, high-margin lifestyle brand for burnt-out professionals.
It really highlights the absolute power of reframing and creative strategy.
It really does.
By shifting the conversation away from what the product physically is,
Yeah.
a pulverized cactus, and focusing entirely on how the product makes you feel, an invisible internal anchor against the relentless chaos of modern life,
Yeah.
they fundamentally change the entire value proposition.
It's a powerful lesson in marketing, but frankly, it's a fascinating lens for everyday life, too.
That's for sure.
Think about it. If a massive, visceral, biological flaw like slime can be reverse engineered into a premium daily anchor for the most stressed out people in society, simply by altering its physical form and the story we tell about it, well, with perceived flaws in your own life or in your own business, are actually just waiting for the right creative strategy to become your absolute greatest asset.
That is exactly the question we should be asking.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.